Wow, there you go. Jesus, that was a sneeze. Well, I did force you to. You should never do that. You should
Didn't you
never.
sneeze?
Yeah, you should never close your nose while you
I
sneeze.
didn't. I went.
Well, my pal did that once, and one of his eyes popped out.
Hello there. Welcome to On the Beat, the podcast that uncovers full frontal male nudity in cinema. My name is Laura, and I am so happy to be joined once again by my co-host Ryan.
Yeah, it was a nice little vacation for me.
Nice little holiday.
Yes, I got to not be on a podcast for once.
I decided that for Valentine's Day, I didn't want to hang out with you. I wanted to hang out with Renee.
Well, don't be surprised if nothing happens on the 14th. Just so you know.
What do you mean?
Well, actually, by the time this comes out, it's already been. So
Exactly.
yeah, nothing happened. Sorry.
That's weird. So today we are going to be talking about the 2022 new film, which hopefully everyone's seen already. I guess we call it a drama comedy, a dark comedy.
A dramedy.
Banshees of Inisherin.
Yes. Well, we're talking about this film in particular because the Oscars were announced
Earlier.
Well, this is earlier.
I feel like you don't know time right now.
At the end of January. Well, we're not doing an
The future past.
Well, we're not doing an Oscars episode because the one we did for last year was an unmitigated bitch fest for the most part.
So there are films that we like. I mean, there was films that we liked last year, but this one is so good, in my opinion.
Yeah, this one, Bill, unfortunately, there's only two films that are probably going to get any of the recognition, and that's one, Banshees, which I feel like deserves it, and the second one is Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I think doesn't deserve it.
You're gonna be super polarizing at the beginning of this. Oh no. Everyone loves Everything Everywhere.
They do, and I don't know why.
I've heard so many good things. We watched it, maybe I was a little sleepy. It didn't pull me in too much, but that doesn't mean that I won't like it on a second viewing, which I will watch alone without you.
Why do you have to pander to, like, the general public?
Because
like, why
you're
are you
here, you have your role as you're part of the hosting, and I have mine, which I'm the everyman.
Yeah, you're the person
I'm the crowd pleaser.
Yeah, well, you're the one who diametrically opposes anything that I say. That's pretty much what you are.
It is my favorite thing when...
Oh, wait, and also you are my loving wife.
I do love you very much. It's funny, our friend Josh, our friend of the podcast, will screenshot on Letterboxd when we have completely opposite views on films, where it'll be side by side. Me giving something 5 stars, and you, Ryan, giving something 1 star. And I love that about us.
Yeah, but we don't have that feeling for Banshees of Inisherin.
Which is why it's so special. That's what I like about this film. I like it when we can agree on something.
How surprising it would be that we agree that a good film is a good film, as opposed to it's not a populist choice.
I mean, it is also. Everyone, I haven't heard of anyone not liking it. I think
it's popular for the fact that it's actually quite entertaining and it's quite a good story and it's a good film.
I like a dark comedy. It's probably my favorite kind. I mean, this is a dark, upsetting, sad, heartfelt character study.
This is a pitch black comedy, as Martin is apt to create.
He does. And so let me just, before we continue gushing over this film.
Okay.
The synopsis of this film, pulled from Letterboxd, is: two lifelong friends find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship, with alarming consequences for both of them.
Yeah, this film doesn't waste any time. But I think let's go into what Martin's done before and what has brought him here to this precise moment in his career.
Martin McDonagh.
McDonagh. The McDonagh. So Martin McDonagh. He is a British/Irish playwright, screenwriter, producer, and director. But yeah, he was born in London and he was born to Irish parents. So that's for the British-Irish thing there. Let's just say he's known for his absurdist black humour, and certainly in his playwriting, he's definitely got quite an illustrious career as a playwright. He challenges the modern theatre aesthetic, which I think is bold, but certainly his stuff is very dark.
Wow.
What the fuck is that? Yeah, so I think it's important to kind of challenge, I guess, modern theatre aesthetics. Let's just put it that way. I think that's enough to say about what he does. Anyway, he's known for writing fundamentally two main trilogies of plays, and that's obviously not discounting the abundance of other stuff that probably isn't under the same bracket as that. But let's just pull off a few that I've got written down here.
Pull them off.
Anyway, let's go back to this list. So here's some stuff. The Beauty Queen of Leon in 1996, The Cripple of Inisherin in 96, The Lonesome West in 97, The Lieutenant of Inishmore 2001, a Behandling in Spokane in 2010, and another one which is Hangman in 2015. But I think Hangman is also not part of either one of the main trilogies, and those trilogies are aptly called set in Leanne, or basically like he has two locales. So the ones that are set in Leanne, which is what I think it's called, that's part of one trilogy, and then there is also the second, which is the Aran Islands. But also this is Banshees. People have suspected that the final part of his Aran Islands trilogy he didn't like. So this is potentially the revisiting of that final piece that he wanted to revisit, which he didn't publish, he didn't put out there into the public.
Yeah, I remember reading something where he was saying that he likes doing films more than theater. So maybe he just started to write this as a play and said, well, no, never mind. I'm going to make it bigger. I'm going to make it grander and
I think
put a camera to it.
Yeah, well, I think his work lends quite well to being cinematic. But I would guess that he gets his start in film with the short film 6 Shooter, which we also watched today because we'd never seen it before.
So good.
It's a really good short film. It's
so
only
good.
half an hour. I mean, it was good enough that it won the Academy Award for Best Live Action back in 2004. But I think that short film is the thing that springboards him into the film career that he now has. And then, to be fair, Papa Gleason's also in 6 Shooter. So it's definitely got a fair amount of money behind it, and it definitely looks like it was expensive. And also Film 4 had put their kind of partnership to it as well. So it's not like he just decided to make a film. There was quite a lot of planning that kind of went into making that thing. But it's also well worth it. I mean, it's well worth the accolades. It's incredibly funny.
Yeah, you guys can find that on the internet. Just search for it. It's on YouTube. I think it's on Vimeo as well.
Yeah.
So worth it. Such a good time.
And in terms of like his films, we start off with In Bruges in 2008, which is very popular. Seven Psychopaths in 2012. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri in 2017, which I thought was a really big front runner for Oscars during the 2018 season, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we then follow it up with Banshees of Inisherin in 2022. And I'm thinking, do I have anything else here? No, I do not. So that is me.
I feel really kind of proud. I know he doesn't have a long filmography, but I've seen all of them, and I feel really excited about it. I love his shit. I love this dude's gig. Yeah. I'm down with what he's got going on.
So this will sound kind of weird to everybody, but I've only seen Banshees in his short film. I've not seen any of the rest of them.
But that's exciting. I find that exciting. I never really get upset when I talk to someone about films that I really like that they haven't seen. It's an opportunity.
Here's the thing.
For pleasure in the future.
Yeah, here's the thing. I think In Bruges and definitely 7 Psychopaths were touted to me by people who were like, oh, you won't fucking believe it, man. Like, I had such a good time watching those movies. They were great, eh? So I decided I wasn't going to watch them.
Yeah, well,
I've learned more since then, 'cause I remember someone said the same thing about Under Siege, but Under Siege is pretty good.
Oh, the Seagal.
The Seagal, the Tommy Lee Jones, yes, yeah.
I love the Under Siege.
Oh, can I believe it, man? It's like that thing on the boat, eh? It's like, all right, okay.
Under Siege is incredible, and Tommy Lee Jones has this kind of hippie thing going on.
It does, yeah.
He's so good.
Yeah, he's a wild man.
I think I screamed when I saw him in that film. I was so excited.
But
this is not about Under Siege. I apologize.
Yeah, I was gonna make a Top Gun Maverick joke, but I fucking screwed it up.
Well, Top Gun Maverick is a joke in and of itself.
There's nothing fun about it.
That movie barfs red, white, and blue. It's disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, the original Top Gun, I think, is like an Englishman's take on... Well, actually, no, it's Tony Scott's hour-and-a-half long sports commercial. That's pretty much what it is. With just, like, real planes doing real shit, which is obviously what they did with Maverick. But, yeah, we won't be covering Top Gun Maverick. The only dick you see in that is Tom Cruise.
Boom! So, let me tell you the tagline of this film. It is 4 words. Everything was fine yesterday. Oh, it hurts me so much. Oh, it hurts my heart. Oh my God. Okay, so this movie, we already talked about Papa Gleason, but it's got Papa Brendan Gleeson, which is the second time we get to talk about sweet Papa Gleason.
Yeah, I do like Gleason quite a fair amount. So good. He's my favorite Gleason. Let's put it that way.
I love all of the Gleasons. I'm a big Gleason family fan. I'm gaga for the Gleasons. Colin Farrell is in this film. Yeah. Carrie Condon, Barry Keoghan, and Gary Linden is the Garda cop.
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be... Boy. I'll be kind of jumping back. I can kind of remember the 2 main names. We're going to be talking most about, obviously, Gleason and Farrell the entire time, but that's Colm and Boric.
Patrick.
Is it Patrick?
Or Podrick.
I thought it was Podrick. I thought it was Boric.
Padraic. It's like
Patrick.
The Gaelic version of Patrick.
It's not...
Podrick.
Yeah, so it's said like back. Isn't it?
Well, I guess you come from a...
Well, I thought that's why they say it in the movie.
Say it again?
Barrack.
It's like... It's with a P, though.
Or Porrick. Porrick, isn't it? Porrick?
Sure.
It's probably Porrick. Anyway, we'll try
Gleason
our
says
best.
It differently from Carrie Condon. So
well, either way.
I want to bring up one more thing. Martin McDonagh's brother is also a director, and I don't think we'll talk about him, but he also directed Papa Gleason in Calvary that came out in 2014 and The Guard in 2011. Both have Gleason in it, so Gleason is very entangled with the McDonaghs, and Calvary is freaking awesome. Have you seen Calvary?
I've not seen Calvary, no.
So good. It's so gross.
Okay.
Love it.
Okay. Well, yeah, we can probably check that out at some point.
I'll watch
Not for the podcast, but we can just watch it.
I would love to.
Yeah, I think here's the key. Here's the key to fantastic writing is it sets up the premise in less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
From the minute it kicks off, is that you're introduced to Padraig, and you introduced to the world, you're introduced to the community, you're introduced to what effectively is their daily routine, and then you're gonna get a sense of that monotony as it's like a driving force for why Colm is acting the way he's acting, and he's going to go meet his pal at 2:00 as they do every day to go to the pub to have a few pints. To, I guess, I don't know, just shoot the shit, have a wee chat, have a wee bit of banter, and that's just the daily routine. But what you find, and this is kind of obviously how they set it up, is that Colm has very suddenly and quite distinctly decided he doesn't want anything to do with Podrick anymore.
Yeah, and it... Oh, gosh...
It begins innocently enough, you think.
Yeah, well, it begins, you see Patrick, he's happy, he's so pure. The look on his face is just innocent joy, and he's walking around in the place he's lived his whole life, living on this island, knowing what like you said, knowing what he's going to do each day. Has his palace, has his pub, all is grand. And then it just gets absolutely rocked by the fact that his absolute best friend is ignoring him.
And also, I would also say that this is quintessential small island living. So certainly there's gossip, there's chatter, like certainly when we meet the women who own the post office a little bit further down the road at the docks, they're always like, have you got any news? Is there any news? What's the news?
What's the hot goss?
It's like, well, he doesn't have any news. You hear that? He didn't have any news. It's got nothing to say. So basically there's not a lot going on, but what you do see is that once this kind of friendship, this divide kind of starts to split them down the middle, it does become very much a talking point. It also it starts to create rifts within the community because of how incidental it is, but then also how devastating this one decision ends up being.
It's so interesting how it's kind of juxtaposed against the actual civil war that's happening in Ireland, literally across the water, that they can see occurring on a regular basis. It's kind of at the end of the Irish Civil War. What was it, like?
So yeah,
1921?
No, it was 22 to 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's occurring. They're watching, bombs going off, and they're hearing gunfire, and so you have this war occurring.
I also need to point out before we get too far. We already know it's 2022 and 2023, so obviously that was 1922 and 1923. It's exactly 100 years ago now.
Great. Yeah, and, having that set against the smaller civil war that's happening between these two people, that means so much more to them than the war happening in their own country.
Yeah.
So it just rocks this community and rocks these two people in such an intense way.
Yes. Have you been rowing? You're rowing. Have you been rowing?
I didn't think we were rowing.
Didn't think we were. Did I say anything? Were you rowing? You must be rowing. But what you really kind of get is, I guess, like the day-to-day, like the ennui of just their lives. They're all incredibly self-sufficient. They've got their own little kind of tight-knit community. There's no warring. There's no nonsense,
I mean, there's some terrible shit that's also happening to people that maybe they just don't talk about.
I guess because on the surface, obviously, it feels quite quaint and innocent for the most part. There is obviously underlying things. I mean, certainly we find out a little bit more, and obviously Officer Kearney ends up being the focus quite primarily on one particular moment, obviously, in this film that obviously pervades to our interests. But you do find that he is, other than being quite unfriendly, he never offers a hello back.
The cop, right?
Yeah, to Podrick at any point. We end up finding out he's just a real fucking piece of shit.
Classic cop.
Yeah, and I mean he's also quite tight-knit with the vicar of the church as well, who is also a little bit of a piece of shit as well. So you do find like the institutions or the institutional members of this community hold all the either the purse strings or the suspected, in inverted commas, power. Are obviously the biggest pieces of shit on the island.
Oh dear. Yeah, so right after Podrick is trying to get Colm to go down to the pub, doesn't he end up going back home to see his sister Siobhan? And he's like, I don't know what's going on. And she's again going, are you, did you row? What's going on? And she just says, maybe he just doesn't like you anymore.
Yeah.
Which is, it's quite, I don't know, just quite a shocking statement that's meant as a joke.
Yeah, it's meant as a joke, but it's also very literal.
Yeah.
Even without her knowing the situation. Because to be honest, like...
Because it's so out of the blue, and it's so... they couldn't even imagine that occurring, because they're such staples of this community and best friends, and everyone knows that they're friends, so just to hear like, ha, he probably just doesn't like you anymore. It's like, oh, fuck off. Of course he does.
It's literally, like, it's tearing Podrick, his soul, apart. Like, he cannot fathom why this is happening. And it's literally like, it's as if someone has told him that his dog that he's had for like 15 years has died in the most brutal manner. And this is what he's portraying, is just this utter confusion and this sense of malcontent. and he just can't deal with it.
Well, exactly. So when they go, there's one evening where they go down to the pub and Colm's hanging out with Dominic, Barry Keoghan, who's the son of the Garda cop, who's a piece of shit. And he's saying, like, why isn't he speaking to you anymore? And even Dominic goes, what is he, 12? It's like a childish thing to do. But that stuff, I mean, and he's right. That stuff happens. I don't know if it happened to you at school, but it absolutely happened to me in school, where all of a sudden people just decided not to be my friend. And they would, I mean, they were much more cruel because they're school children, but they just would ignore me like I didn't exist. And that is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And you think about it now, if my best friends said, I just don't want to be your friend anymore. Yeah. I just have other things I want to focus my time on, and you're dull, I would die. So it would rip me to shreds.
We do find out eventually why Colm's come to this decision to ignore his friend, and it's literally within the span of 24 hours he's decided to go through with this. But here's the thing. I kind of sympathize with Colm's predicament.
Right.
He's an older man. He's obviously getting on in life. He's also a musician. He also has these things. But again, I think like the monotony of this kind of daily routine. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any women on the island. Like, he's single. Podrick's also fucking single.
Yeah.
He does live with his sister, obviously, but what you find out is obviously with the sister has kind of higher aspirations as to what she wants to do with her life.
Kind of just seems like she's there after their parents had passed away to take care of him, because he's not inept or anything. He's a capable human being, but he is a bit...
He's not simple, but I would also say that,
like, naive, and
he's a little naive. He's a little bit in his ways.
Very sensitive.
And also, I don't think he makes jokes and stuff about obviously his sister. What's her name? Shannon.
Siobhan.
She likes to read. She's quite well read, and he's like, why would you read? So he's only educated in the things that he knows he needs to do to survive. Let's just put it that way, right? So he's herding cows. He's got obviously his animals he looks after, and then obviously the kind of the daily grind of what he does. So he is not an interesting or worldly man, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, but he knows his world. He is in his bubble. And that's what it is, right? And that is 99% of the people who live, they breathe, they die on this island. And I feel like I sympathize with Colm, because I feel like if you feel like you're being stifled, or if there's any sense of like, oh my God, like time is literally running away from me, where's my stamp on the world? Like, I feel like there's a lot more to the world than just this bubble that I feel like I've stuck myself into. I can fully sympathize with what he's going to do. The thing is, and obviously he kind of, he realizes kind of how harshly he's kind of putting his viewpoint out there. He probably could have handled the situation a little bit better.
It makes me think... Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He's a man that's struggling so hard with his own existence, with his mortality, and putting his stamp on the world. Like, what? And they have that conversation in the pub at one point. But I almost feel as though he knows Podrick so well that he almost had to be cruel at the beginning, because it's like a puppy, where you have to, I don't know, just like kick it and make it hate you so that it just goes away and you don't have to worry about it anymore. It just rip off the Band-Aid.
Well, you find out that obviously, Podrick's obviously he's going to react a certain way. And we do find out kind of later on how he does react to certain things a certain way. Because
every time that Colm, because nothing is coming from a mean-spirited place or a place of harm or evil. He is just strictly focusing on himself. And he just believes that he doesn't have time for any mundane chatter at this point in his life. And it is harsh and it is difficult. But every time that he's nice to Podrick, it just gives him hope that their friendship can survive. Yeah. Which just exacerbates the situation.
It's also, it's definitely a scenario which is kind of born out of the simplicity of their lives, you know? Like, it's very much, you know, that's kind of where all the humor kind of comes from, is just kind of, it's very simple.
It's
the
like
things
breaking
that they
up
are.
with somebody and you still live with them. And
Pretty
you
much,
think
yeah.
that there's hope, and then you kind of get comfortable. Maybe there is, and you fall into old routines,
Yeah.
but then you realize that no, this is broken. And you can't really come back from it, because it's your island.
Yeah.
And you do the same things, and you're going to keep doing the same things and running into each other. So
Yeah.
it's going to cause so much conflict.
But the issue, let's say like the fueling factor of what brings so much conflict into their relationship is that Colm's only doing this to Podrick. He's not doing it to anybody else.
Right.
You know, he's the exact same person to everybody else on the island other than Podrick.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really, it rings in as like he has singled him out as the one person who is holding him back in life.
Oh, so sad.
And it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I think Colin Farrell does a fantastic job because it is very much rooted in, I guess, the comedy elements I would kind of pull it from is like your Charlie Chaplin, like The Orphan, like that sort of level of like comedy performance. I feel like I think it's very, very good, and certainly this is more a drama, which is a comedy, as opposed to being too much of a comedy. So
yeah, well, you couldn't just have this as a straight drama. You'd want to jump off a cliff.
No, it's far too dark. But anyway, he's still interacting with everybody else, and he's just, again, he's watching Colm kind of continue to go about his normal life, like the things he would do, like going to the pub, being late at night and stuff like that. And he obviously starts hanging out with Dominic, which is obviously played by Barry Keoghan. And obviously he is, I guess, Barry's character, Dominic, he's definitely a source of comic relief. He's a bit of a fool, but he's also incredibly naive. He's very innocent, and also he's probably what you would refer to as the village idiot, effectively. But you get an understanding as to why that is the case.
Trauma.
It's all based in trauma. He is Kearney's son.
The cop.
Yeah, but what you kind of find out is like kind of deep-seated and stuff, like he's being abused and beaten by his cop father. Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
But certainly, yeah. He is, he's not having a fantastic time.
But he's also the one that's telling it like it is all the time. Like, he's just very, plain, and he just sees everything as it is, you know, and takes everything at its word, and kind of guides us through a little bit, like, why is Colm being like this? This is stupid.
Because I kind of took him and his character a little bit more like in like the Shakespearean sense. Like, if this is an ensemble drama and you're playing it on a stage, he's kind of like in Midsummer Night's Dream, he's like Puck. He's like a kind of expositionary character who kind of helps you kind of lead you in with a little bit more humor and stuff like that. But they're sitting in the pub and they're looking at all go, and I think like Barry had a couple of like fantastic lines where he's just like talking about the women that are there, because there doesn't seem to be a lot of women there whatsoever.
There's women here, good ones too.
Yeah, we can get with our small talk, he says, and then he starts shouting at Colm, like saying, "Play something dancey."
Yeah, because Colm's sitting there playing the fiddle. Did you know that Papa Gleason is a skilled fiddleman? I mean, I guess you could guess because he was playing the fiddle in the film.
Oh, is he actually playing the fiddle?
He sure is.
All right, okay.
Yeah, he's played the fiddle in several films.
Huh, okay. Well, there you go then. I mean, the only other thing I was going to say before we move on to the dick scene is that it must be an absolute nightmare trying to get laid there.
Yeah. Small island life.
Yeah, probably a lot of wanking happening.
And
here we are.
Here we are.
So for whatever reason, right, this is the dick scene. For whatever reason, Dominic takes Podrick back to his house, where obviously his father is, right? And
well, we find out why. I mean, they want to get a drink, but they don't want to be in the pub anymore.
Yeah.
And he knows that Garda Daddy has booze. It looked like moonshine or something in a bottle.
Yeah, it was kind of like nondescript alcohol.
Yeah. So they walk in together. They're being very quiet and tiptoeing. But as soon as they walk in, you see Dominic's father, Papa Garda,
Yeah.
in a chair with his policeman's cap on, completely naked.
Yeah.
Just with one single beam of moonlight illuminating his naked body.
Yeah, it is a sight to behold. But we're also kind of seeing it from the perspective of Podrick, who's just got a look on his face like okay, to the point where it feels like even without having to say it, it does beg a little bit of explanation. But Dominic does give the explanation, which is he'll kill us if we wake him when he's been wanking.
Oh my god.
He just shakes his head as if just like, right, okay. So they creep over, they get the bottle of nondescript alcoholic liquid, and they leave naked police daddy in his chair.
It makes you think, how did he and oh gosh. Dominic has probably seen this 1 million times, which is so foul. But it's just an interesting way of going about the wanking process, to where this man apparently needs to be completely nude, no socks, no clothes, no nothing, and just his hat on his head.
Yeah. And Dominic also knows that if he did wake him, he will get angry.
Yeah, well, he'll beat the shit out of him.
And we do find out that he does beat the crap out of him after he finds out that the alcohol was gone. But
Yes.
Dominic already knows that's what's going to happen as a result of them taking the booze anyway.
Yeah, I assume this wasn't the first time that's happened, but I think it's
No.
their Podrick and Dominic's relationship. I think I'm sure they've known each other forever, but them hanging out, I think, is pretty new, hanging out solo, because Podrick's always been with Colm.
Yeah, well, certainly, yeah. I think Dominic's now beginning to kind of bare his soul a little bit, where he's not probably the biggest fan of his father. He goes on about, I mean, if this is to give any sort of reference, because usually we don't talk about like what the dicks look like, but Dominic goes like, the tiny brown cock on him. So it's it's
With disgust, he says.
absolute vehement hatred for his horrible dad. But his dad is a horrible fucking piece of shit, and we do find out kind of how that ends up eventually as well.
So this dick scene comes in really, really early in the film, so about 14 minutes and 40 seconds-ish.
Yeah, the film's about 2 hours long.
Right, a beautiful 2 hours. But yeah, this happens really early, and this is the only time that occurs. But it's just an interesting... You see you see the whole town, you see everyone, and your cast of characters, but this is definitely a weird kind of tiptoeing little secret that Podrick gets let in on. Just the first bit of information about this Garda cop that no one else knows.
No.
So it's kind of him peeking into the secret life of this guy who he already doesn't like, who's never been nice to him. He mentions that he sees him on walks and he always says, hello, and he just ignores him.
Well, Kearney also smacks Podrick later on as well. They end up in a fight.
Yeah, well, because when they go to the, kind of the post office, right? The general store, and the woman's asking for news, and he doesn't have any, he gets pissed off, and the guard is standing right next to him, and he goes, well, did you know that he beats his son up?
Oh, yeah.
And is that at the same time where he's like, he also fiddles his son? Did you know that?
Oh.
Oh, no, I think he says that at the pub later on. I don't think he says it now.
Says it
but
later.
He just says he beats up his son.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's not news. That's shit news.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And then that's when the cop goes out and then punches him in the face.
Yeah. Well, Kearney's a horrible bastard. He's a very nasty man. But that's not really the crux of the story, though. I mean, effectively, obviously not to kind of dwell too much on it. And also, I feel like it's a film that needs to be experienced rather than explained.
So hopefully you've experienced already, because
Otherwise, like shit's gonna
ruining
go
the
down. Yeah, aye.
which is what we always do. You should
Because the
know
thing
this by
is
now.
like when the shit does go down, like it goes down. You know what I mean? So effectively, Calm threatens Podrick, who effectively will not take no for an answer. So like immediately, it's like it was April Fools. That's why you're doing it. You're trying to trick me. To it just being like, well, look, you're just obviously a grumpy bastard. You are my friend. You're going to continue to be my friend, and it continues on that way up until the point where Colm has to literally threaten him with taking off his own fingers for him to just leave him alone and to give him peace. And
Yeah, he's like,
obviously, Siobhan gets involved as well and has to talk to him because she's just like trying to wrangle what looks like obviously a couple of pubescent boys who are arguing with each other.
Yeah, because she has her life that she's living as well, and this disrupts her in a fantastic way, to where she can't live her life normally like she usually does because she's got to deal with Podrick, who's so upset, and now he's home all the time.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Aren't you gonna go out?"
Yeah.
That must be annoying. But it's an interesting thing to say that as a fiddle player and as a man who wants this peace, so that he can create, so that he can write music and create songs and get his creative output going, he needs this time to threaten to cut off his fingers that he needs in order to create this music. So it's an interesting sort of choice.
His intentions are true. I feel like they are
For himself.
They're true for himself, but they're also seated in a lot of antiquity. As in, like, he starts talking about like the old greats, and then also at this point, even Podrick, who's obviously not, he's not the most intelligent man, is still able to kind of be like, well, that's seemingly not the case. It's like he just wants something that he wants to be remembered by, because their small chats and their talks will not be remembered. They're lacking of importance. But it eventually gets to the point where some fingers have to be taken off, Laura.
It is a profound act of violence against the self.
Yes.
It is genuinely shocking.
This man just goes around with a bleeding hand. Like, he doesn't really even bother to cover it up that much.
I think that was another thing that I found so shocking, is that he doesn't clean his hand. He is at home with like a big pair of shears or something.
They're sheep shears, basically.
That
like
he
wool
cuts
shears.
his finger off, and he said he almost passed out while doing it, but now it doesn't hurt anymore. It's totally fine after all the excitement. But he chops it off, doesn't wrap it.
I love that bit where he's like,
it.
Yeah, I love the bit where he's like talking to Siobhan, and he's just like, didn't think it was going to clear up today, but it has. It's very pleasant.
Well, his fingers.
He's looking at the window while his fingers just actively bleeding all over the floor.
Oh my gosh, such a nice day.
Well, the thing is, what kind of happens is that Siobhan and Patrick are just sitting at home, and then they hear a thing at the door, and they're like, someone's at the door. And they look at the door, and it's blood-stained, and then they look away, and they're like, oh wait. And then he picks up a finger, and then brings in, and Siobhan's like, was it a bird? And it's like, no. And he opens his hand up, and it's just this bloody finger.
The scream that comes out of her mouth, I loved. And I also love that she goes, throw it out. And he goes, no, I'm not going to throw it out. It'll get dirty. It'll get dirt all over it.
But it's just...
But it's indicative of his state of mind, of
Colm
at least.
Yeah.
Where, just like we were saying, like, he doesn't even clean it up. He cuts that motherfucker off his hand and just immediately walks over to his house and just chucks it at the door. And has no regard for his own obviously has no regard for his own self-preservation, because he's mutilating his body in order to prove a point. And very extreme.
Yes.
Very extreme indeed.
Yeah, this is a film that goes from one extreme to the other. And just Podrick won't just let it go. And as a result of not letting it go, he cuts off all of the fingers on his left hand. Every single one. And while they're away, Siobhan and Podrick, they're away doing whatever. He's then chucking 4 fingers at their door.
I think it got to the point where Podrick found out that Colm he finally finished writing his beautiful opus, which of course is the titular line of the film.
Yes.
That he gets to spout, which I adore, titular line. And he finally finished it, and he's like, is it good? Great. And they had a lovely chat, the two friends, which is just coming back to what I said earlier, is that every single time that Colm gives him an inch, Podrick takes a mile.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I've got him back. I'm so happy to have my friend back. Everything's going to come back to normal. He's like, we'll meet you down at the pub.
Yeah.
It's going to be lovely. And yeah, I think that was when he was down at the pub waiting. That's when all those fingers go at his door.
Yeah.
And it's this horrible cycle.
It's a horrible cycle, but it's kind of also like, Podrick also is not aware of the invisible social boundary that Colm has just enforced.
No.
So he's not actually capable of either being able to win his trust back or just win his friendship back. And for him, it should be relatively quite simple. Simple man, simple island living. But for him, this is a very complex emotional situation that I don't feel like he is capable of dealing with in any way, shape, or form. Which is nice when you have, like, I guess, this very kind of personal conflict going on, which is then offset to a very real world conflict that's just happening just across the water, which I think is a fantastic metaphor for what's going on here. But the thing is, like, he throws the rest of his fingers, right? He's got this fucking bloody stump, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I love the bit where we see him in the pub and they're all playing and, like, the table's splattered with blood and, like, all of his notes and his papers and stuff, because he's just like, we're gonna play my opus, we're gonna play the Banshees. And it's just him holding his bloody fiddle in his remaining hand, and he's got this fucking stump that's just spraying blood everywhere, and the rest of the musicians are just like, what the fuck is going on? I loved it so much. But the thing is, with him throwing those last fingers at the door. So there's this donkey, right?
The sweet donkey. Oh no.
Oh, well, hold up. We'll bring it up after we bring up this moment, because we're fucking sick of, like, donkey cruelty. That's one thing that, unfortunately, Oscars has this year.
It's the year of the donkey.
It's the year of the brutalization of a donkey. And we watched a film called Io. It's a Polish European film. Is it Polish-Italian?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's Polish-Italian called Io. It's just spelled E-N-O. And it's basically about a donkey. It's like
seeing the world through the donkey's eyes.
It's like Homeward Bound, except it's like if Julia Ducournau made this kind of psychedelic Homeward Bound film. It's not Julia Ducournau, because I feel like she's got a little bit more class than this director. But effectively, like, it's basically watching the brutalization of a donkey for 88 minutes, and it makes you very upset. It's got a terrible fucking ending, and it's just a horrible piece of filmmaking, just in general. Looks lovely, but it's completely fruitless. Anyway,
yeah, my review of that was, do we need this right after we lost Jenny?
Now, Jenny is the lovely. She's like a dwarf donkey. She's like a miniature donkey.
Yes.
So she's this tiny little thing, and she's the sort of thing that like literally you can have her on your knee. She's like a big dog, right? Very sweet. She's got a little bell on her neck,
a little bow,
so you know where she is. And obviously the rest of the animals are quite fond of her, because he's got like a workhorse. Let's just say like a Shetland horse, like a full-sized horse, who's like tied to the cart and stuff. So obviously the little donkey and the horse get on, and obviously the cows and stuff, they all get on together.
They're all best friends.
They're all very aware. And this poor fucking donkey ends up choking on the fingers that Colm is throwing on the. Yes, obviously Jenny's not the brightest of animals, but she's ended up choking on choking on his fingers, and this is effectively the final straw.
Did you know that Jenny the donkey was not a show donkey? She'd never been in show business before. But because of that, she would get nervous. And so they had a support donkey named Rosie who would come in when Jenny was getting nervous.
Oh, fantastic.
She just had like a little friend and it would calm her down.
I think I love that there's little moments in the movie, because obviously a lot of the humor just comes from just how, I guess, like, peculiar some of the things are that happen on the island. And obviously to them, it's all very kind of normal, commonplace stuff.
Well, just how they speak, the dialogue in and of itself is very funny.
It's such a really well-written film, and the characters are really well built out. But I do like moments where just like, Jenny just comes into the house, and Siobhan doesn't really like Jenny that much. She doesn't think the animals should be in the house, but obviously...
That's fair.
Yeah, obviously, Podrick has different other ideas, because obviously he's very fond of Jenny.
I'm not putting my donkey outside when I'm sad.
No.
He says.
If anything, like, all we've done this week has been, like, supporting the donkeys, to the point where we're like, we'll have a donkey. We'll get a donkey.
Let's just get a donkey.
We'll just get a donkey.
A rescue donkey.
But I don't know if you can have donkeys in Florida. I think it's too warm for the donkey. Really?
We'll make an air-conditioned barn. I don't care.
Okay, well, either way...
Save the donkeys.
Yeah, I mean, there's donkeys. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, we found out all sorts of things about the poor fucking donkeys watching that bloody movie. And obviously, if you're in the UK, you see videos and adverts for the donkey sanctuary all the fucking time as well. So obviously... you're being guilted into liking the donkeys. But I don't think donkeys have ever done anything wrong.
Absolutely
I think donkeys
not.
I think donkeys are, other than, like, obviously at Blackpool Beach and stuff like that, which I think they've stopped. They don't do donkey rides and stuff anymore. I don't think they have that. I think they scrapped it all.
Donkeys just need carrots and love, okay?
They do need carrots, and they also need love. But, fuck it. There's nothing. I like a donkey. There's nothing wrong with a good old donkey.
Yeah, this donkey dies.
Donkey's done nothing. Yeah, well, the donkey fucking dies, and obviously now Podrick's gone a little bit mental. The straw has been cut.
It's in conjunction with the fact that his sister Siobhan. I don't know if the impetus for her leaving was the conflict kind of going on at home with her brother and stuff, or if she was just really ready to follow her dreams, but she got a job offer on the mainland, and she's just decided, I'm leaving, and she wants her brother to come with her, but he is just a hometown boy, and he knows what he knows, and he's supported by his animals that are, essentially his friends at this point. But now Siobhan is gone. Jenny has died because of choking on a finger. So he's gone off the rails.
Well, because Siobhan's not there, there's no voice of reason anymore.
She's the only voice of reason on the whole island.
It's basically this is where the boys are left to run wild, and effectively, with the donkey dying was the last finger that choked the donkey's throat.
Yeah, so
he sets fire to Colin's house with him in it.
With him in it, he does save the dog. So the dog wouldn't be hurt.
The dog's a lovely old English sheepdog. Like, a really lovely old English sheepdog.
I think that everyone had problems with the animals on the set, where apparently the dog bit Papa Gleason at one point, and then the donkey was the biggest diva out of everybody. So, and the donkey's name also in real life is Jenny, because so she would hear her cues.
Oh, okay.
They didn't want to confuse her. So
I love that. That's great. Yeah, sounds like actually it's a lot of fun. I mean, they do say don't work with
kids and animals.
But I don't know. People continue to do it, so I don't know.
I think it's so great. I mean, it ends in a slightly ambiguous manner, but it kind of makes you feel as though I don't know if this is over.
Yeah. I think. I mean, I feel like the problem is that because of the extremes that they both ended up resorting to, at least with the burning down of his house, and obviously, unfortunately, Dominic is found dead in a body of water.
Yeah, I think, and it's in the same spot where he had been speaking to Siobhan earlier in the film, and basically asking her if there was any way that she could love someone like him. And she says, no,
Yeah.
no, there's no way. And what did he say? Oh, that's that dream gone.
Yeah.
Something like that.
It's pretty, it's pretty bleak. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty funny. But to be fair, yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny.
He's tragic. He's a tragic character.
Obviously, with Dominic dead, you would hope that at least kind of mellows the behavior that had been happening with like the cultural institutions that are also part of the island. But then obviously the crux of the story, which is obviously the friendship between the two main characters, is that the boundary has been set at least within, I guess, like a civil grounding, effectively. You know, so like, look, we're drawing a line quite literally in the sand because they have this conversation while they're on the beach. You know, there is a mutual understanding at that point, so that, you know, even then the Civil War is brought up at that point where they're like, oh well, we've not heard any gunfire in the last kind of, you know, few days. Hopefully it's kind of settling down. And then Podrick also kind of brings up the fact that, like, well, sometimes some things like that they're not supposed to end, which is also a kind of very dark foreshadowing of obviously the, you know, Irish history that does obviously end up kind of rearing its head kind of further down the line into the course of the century anyway. But obviously it's more kind of reflected upon like the atrocities that they've both committed to each other over the course of their friendship, which I think that's I just feel like it's a very cleverly written moment, and it's a nice kind of closer for the movie, because it's nice in that it takes the main theme of the movie, wraps it up nice and well. It has obviously the metaphor of obviously being set against the Irish Civil War of the early 1920s. So
right,
I just think it's very smart writing, and it'll probably get the best screenplay Oscar.
Absolutely.
Just probably purely on that basis. But if that does happen, unfortunately, it probably won't get best film. So it can only win one or the other. And certainly, I didn't like a film that's fucking that's basically a fucking centerpiece for an everything bagel. Give me a fucking break.
But you get to see the darkness and the sadness kind of from both sides of the conflict. You know, there's no one is a villain here. Everyone feels. You can feel for every single person that's involved. Yeah. It's very kind of down to earth and kind of, I feel like a lot of us have had these type of feelings. Yeah. Where, you know, you're trying to move on with your life and maybe things are hindering you. You're looking and wondering about your own mortality and things like that. And it's a struggle. Because
as much as it's absurd, it's incredibly grounded.
Yeah.
I would say overall. Yeah, which is why it's relatable to a certain degree.
Yeah,
and it's just a good solid film. It's a good solid film with a good story and good acting, and it looks nice.
So this is Colin Farrell's third film with McDonagh, which, you know, we're in Bruges and Seven Psychopaths. Yeah, it's his third film with Barry Keoghan, because they were in Killing of a Sacred Deer together. And The Batman.
Yeah, I played the Penguin.
And I don't know if this is their second film together, but I know that Colin Farrell and Papa Gleason worked together on In Bruges,
actually, hold on. I mean, yeah, the Batman's definitely a thing, but the Barry Keoghan stuff isn't actually in the release of the movie, so I don't know if that's...
Well, they're in the same film together.
They are technically in the same film together, but also... You never see... we would never have known that Barry Keoghan had anything to do with the Batman unless they released that deleted scene stuff early.
Okay, so Colin Farrell has been in 3 films with Barry Keoghan. Does that work?
Yeah,
they have been in 3 of the same motion pictures.
Well, I'm not gonna moan. So that's fine.
Papa Gleason's also worked. This is his third film with McDonagh as well, including Six Shooter.
Okay.
So. McDonagh said that he wanted to work with the boys again because it's been 14 years since In Bruges. I'm sure we're familiar with the accolades. There are a ton. This film is nominated for so many awards at every major awards function and every minor awards function.
Yeah.
Academy Awards, it's nominated for Best Picture, Director, Colin Farrell for Best Actor, supporting actors for Papa Gleason and Barry Keoghan, supporting actress for Kerry Condon, original screenplay, editing, and score. It's nominated for the exact same things that the BAFTAs. It premiered at Venice. This film is it's gonna rain down gold.
I hope so. I hope so. I like it when good films win. I like it when the things that I like win.
Well, when you think about the films that have won Best Film, and rewatch value, I think, is not necessarily important when you're making a film. Not a lot of films, not every film has rewatch value. This one certainly
Most
does.
films don't have rewatch value. It's all very subjective. So I guess, like, if, for example, we brought up Under Siege, like, that is someone's favorite film of all time, and they will watch it 20 times a year. That's perfectly fine. Same as, like, Everything Everywhere All at Once is someone's favorite film. They will watch it 20 times, So really, I find that to kind of, is to be very subjective. So when I say things like, I think most films are relatively, don't have a rewatch value, is that because they've got a very select number of films that I will watch constantly over and over and over again. So, I think it's very much a personal thing.
Of course. But for me, it does. I like it. Yeah. I could see this being purchased and being on the shelf.
It's just a quality piece of filmmaking. It's
weirdly comforting as well at times. Like, there's just something about the cinematography, how it looks.
Yeah, it looks nice.
I know Martin McDonagh was saying, I don't think a lot of films really capture the beauty of Ireland. And I'm like, have you not seen Leap Year starring Amy Adams? That's a joke. I don't think you've seen that film.
No, I think
some people out there have. That's a rom-com.
I think this is when we wrap it up.
I'm just saying, guys, that
she just brought up Leap Year. Let's just wrap this up. Yeah.
Oh, I think I had one more thing to talk about. Oh God, where is it? It's talking about where they filmed it. So they filmed part of this movie on Inisherin, and then the end of it on Achill Island. On Achill Island, they're both on the west coast of Ireland, but they wanted to put Podrick's house on Inisherin because it's a little bit more level, it's more flat, it's more calm. And then Colm's house they built, they found the house on Achill Island, and it's a little bit more rocky, a little bit more of a tumultuous landscape, just to kind of give that dichotomy between the two.
I think that's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah, and then, they made it look like it was the same place, but anyway. So why don't you go ahead and start and give me your visibility and context rating, Ryan?
Oh, so I gave the visibility and context like a 3.5 to a 4. Okay. Probably give it 3.5. It's also pretty dark, so you can't see that much, and also it's, for the nature of what it is. But it's, I don't know, do we call it a comedy penis? The only reason it's funny, because other than that, it would be fucking shocking, is the only reason is, like, if you don't find the idea of this policeman sitting there naked having a wee wank, then you're going to find this moment quite shocking, because it is a kind of in-your-face sort of moment. But for me, I thought it was fucking hilarious. Like, that's something that, I guess because there's quite a wistful, melancholic feeling that I get from watching this movie, because certainly it reminds me a lot of the kind of, I guess, the standard of humour in Scotland. This sort of, the humour really hits home for me in this movie because of how fucking bleak and dark it is. And it's, I think that's something that's obviously reached over into the other nation, obviously in Scotland as well. A Celtic connection. But yeah, certainly I think this scene is great. Just out of the pure humor that I get out of it, it is easily one of the funniest things, and it is basically nailed home because of Barry Keoghan's character and that one line that he says. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And this is obviously something that happens a lot.
Yeah, so. He's seen that wiener a lot.
Oh, it's great.
Unfortunately.
Oh, it's so good. So fucking funny.
For me, I'm going to give it a 3. It is dark.
Yeah, it's very dark.
In context and in lighting. So I know that we saw it when in the theater, but I totally forgot about it. I don't know if I was just really kind of focused on the film and I didn't notice it, but it didn't stick out to me as a memorable full frontal moment, but I do think that it's amusing how it's lit, how they're standing there, the the comments that happen in the film while it's occurring is very, very funny. And categorizing it as a comedy penis is tough. I think it's also a contextual penis in order to show you kind of the life that Dominic has been living, which is tragic and horrible.
Yeah.
But
if you're not into like that darkly black humor, then you might, if you don't find this moment funny, then certainly it's going to have a different kind of contextual interest.
Of course. Yeah, that's Irish humor that I love it. I thought it was great, so I'm still going to give it 3 just because it was quite dark.
Good.
But how about your film rating? I already know what it is.
Oh, I gave it a 5. Yeah. I originally gave it like a 4. I dropped it down from a 5 when I originally saw it, and I was like, But usually a lot of the films that I end up really, really liking end up getting rated lower, and then I rate them higher as time goes on. So I gave it a 5.
Yeah. I think I had it as a 4 at first, just because it was so intense when we saw it in the theater. It was just a lot to take in, but watching it again, I gave it a 4.5.
It doesn't really have a missed moment. There's not a dull moment in the movie.
No.
Like, it's pretty much spot on.
It's basically a 5. I don't know. I'm just kind of sitting on it for a minute, so.
Yeah.
But I think this film is wonderful.
Yeah, it's really good.
Genuinely great.
It's one of the shining lights in the, let's say, the very kind of mediocre peaks and very much big troughs selection of award nominees this year, I feel like.
Yeah, guys should watch it.
Yes, you should go see it. You should support it. I don't think it needs any more support than I think people already know it's pretty good. Yeah. So, this is it. Yeah.
Enjoy it, guys. Well, thank you. I'm so glad to have you back. It's good.
It's not like I kind of left. I still did the sound engineering on the last one. I didn't have to say anything.
I didn't really miss you or anything.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Oh boy. Are we going to fight? Are we going to have a row? Are we rowing?
Maybe you won't know. Maybe you'll just find out later on further down the line or something.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, coming to you from, I think it was was it John Joe's? I don't remember what they called the pub, but it was called J.J. Devine's Public House.
Oh, okay.
Coming to you from the pub, I've been Laura.
I'm Ryan.
Thank you, guys. I hope we're still friends after this.
We'll see, eh?